Hey, what's up everyone? It's Rich. Okay, this is going to be interesting. My camera holder just broke. So, I've kind of got it like set up, but gravity is slowly pulling the arm lower and lower to the page. So anyway, this is going to be the first sort of introduction into the actual inking techniques of this Frankenstein stuff. What I did is I just started at the front end of the book. Hopefully I don't bump the camera. I just really fast sketched out this little tombstone. I didn't try to get it exactly. I just wanted to get the gist of sort of what he had there, and then some things that I'd point out on his original drawing that are just sort of little points of interest is he generally won't delineate exterior lines. So like if you look at this lettering, how it's actually outlined and you have a hard line around things, most of the objects in the Wrightson Frankenstein work doesn't have a solid line around it. So if you actually really look, you kind of think you're seeing it, but he tends to break it up quite a bit, and it's pretty rare. I mean, you can see here that he did, sorry, I'm trying to look through the camera, but like you can see here that he actually used a hard line. But as he got more into the project, generally the rendering sort of creates the edge more than him like going like, oh, okay, well this is a piece of script that sits on top of this, I'll just outline this whole thing, which is kind of, you know, it's a common way that people work, is you're drawing an object, so you want to put like the outline on it. And again, even like this sword back here, although here he did it, I'm telling you, as he got further into the project, a lot of times this wouldn't be a hard line, it would just be these rendering lines, and he may go in sometimes and just solidify the edge, but it just kind of depends on, I think, how he thought it read for himself. Okay, so let's slowly get into this. I'm not even sure that I could do this all in one video. I only have about 17 minutes on my camera today, so let me pause this for a second. I'm gonna get my ink out. And yeah, welcome to us trying to break down a few of these little techniques in the Wrightson Frankenstein book. I think it'll be a lot of fun, and hopefully it's a fitting tribute to one of the great illustrators of our time, you know? Hold on. Okay, I'm back. Yeah, this camera holder, man, it's dropping lower and lower. Hopefully this will work, but don't worry, we're going to do quite a few of these videos, so if today is a little bit of a bust, we'll get it fixed. I'm going to order another one in a little bit. Okay, so the temptation for me would be to approach this how I would normally do a comic book drawing, which is I would generally go in and actually do kind of an outline on it, just kind of the common way that you work. So instead of doing that, what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to start up here, and I'm going to kind of do this interior edge that I've indicated, and I'm just going to kind of... The other thing that you'll notice with Wrightson's work on this stuff is he has a fairly organic line, meaning it waggles a little bit. I'm sure he was doing it intentionally, but it's you get kind of conditioned if you work present day and you do comics to try to do these sort of perfected lines. I don't know why that is, but it's just something that people sort of expect. It's like if I do a set of lines, like people really like, they sort of they gauge your control on like, are they all sort of like straight? Are they all feathered and taper at the same exact spot? It's kind of a weird thing. Yeah, I mean, it's like I've worked with pencilers where they're really particular about that, and it's, you know, it would be hard to explain, but it's you can get a really tight look without having to be that extreme with it. So anyway, so he's got quite a bit of line work that's in this initial part, and this may take a while, so that's why I'm kind of like, I'm not 100% sure how much I'm going to get through this today. But anyway, so this is kind of a mid value, this whole area here, and what I'm doing is I'm going to be setting in a series of lines that are all kind of little sets, little groupings of lines, so maybe 3 to 5 little groups, so kind of like this sort of thing. I didn't really pencil much of this out, so I could be painting myself into sort of like a nasty little corner with this if I get caught up in narration and not on the line work that I'm doing. But anyway, the goal here is to kind of create a bit of a consistent value. It doesn't fade or anything as he moves it down. So all of this interior up to this thing. Again, just small little groups, patches of lines. You can kind of have some go different ways. I'm using a Hunt 102 for this, but you could use whatever. You could use a Micron or whatever kind of pen you're kind of more comfortable with. So anyway, just kind of trying to get an effect like that to some extent. I mean, again, I'm not trying to copy exactly what he did. And you can get more stylish with this. I don't want to get too designy on this section, and I'll explain why in a second, because I'm going to do it on the cross a bit more to make it look a little different. So on these, I'm kind of trying to keep them less interesting looking. And just to be clear, I don't consider myself an expert on Wrightson style or the Franklin Booth style. Okay, so then in here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do more stylish shapes. I'm going to do little patterns with these. So if you look at these lines, you see how I'm doing them kind of different directions. It'll kind of make this stand out a bit more. Down here, I'm starting to push just a little bit harder, as if there was a fade about to take place. So you can see those lines get a little thicker at the bottom. Hopefully everyone's having a good day. If you haven't checked out the, we kind of looked through the Wrightson Frankenstein book. Well, we didn't kind of, we actually did, the last like 3 days to sort of prepare for this. I was going to try to study a little bit last night. I was just too burned out. I was gone quite a bit of the day, and when I got back, I just was like, I didn't have the energy. I kind of had bad allergies yesterday, so it's like I took a Benadryl, kicked my butt. I don't normally like take pills, but if I get stuffy enough, I'll actually I'll take one. It was because I had to be out, and I didn't want to be like all congested, like running around. It's like outside I can see, like, I don't even know what it is, something floating around, some flowers like blooming that's like got little white floaty things everywhere, and I pay the price for it. But anyway, just like I said, little patterns. I'm doing them in about 3 to 4, maybe 5 little things. I don't want to autofocus the camera, but anyway, you see how those go different directions than the stuff above. This is pretty loose. I mean, I'm giving you like kind of a quick pass on it. Okay, so let's do this little dark area. So he's got a cast shadow that kind of comes through here. And I'm actually kind of trying to make it, I mean, the one thing that I'm doing is I'm trying not to do the perfect lines, if that makes sense, and to get it more or organic feeling. So this is a different style than what we're seeing in 2018 from a lot of our peeps. So it's a little darker, but there's light lines in there. And believe it or not, this chunk right here, this gets really dark in here. This is like pretty much black, but Again, I'm going to do it with lines and not just outline it and put like a solid black. So although what I'm trying to do is make this nearly black. Hopefully I'm in camera. And sometimes it reads a little darker on the camera than it is in person. I mean, there's definitely two different values that are going on right here. So okay, so you got that. Okay, then this down here. Okay, so this is like, again, this is, I'm taking this to about a 75 to 80% dark color or dark line weight. Let's see. Again, this ultimately won't look as nice as the final Wrightson one because I don't have time to do like an hour video just for this Tombstone, but I think that the key is you're going to have to experiment with this. I mean, that's really the reality of it is I can show you the thought process. I'm going to wipe off my nib. It's getting a little bit of paper on it. Whoa, cardboard flying. Almost killed me. No. Let me just finish this little area here. Get some hair on there. But yeah, I mean, you're not going to watch like if I went slowly and did a 16-hour video or a 30-hour video of this stuff, the bottom line is you're going to have to sit and try this stuff to learn it. There's no other way around it. Okay, so and then this area right here along the side is the super dark stuff again. And what makes, I think, the Wrightson stuff look so cool is the that organic nature, but he knows just where to go tight enough where it never feels careless. You know, that's the thing is it's got like a lot of paper on the nib right now, but it's okay because this is supposed to be almost black, so. Okay, so we got that. Again, it doesn't, the values aren't reading that clear on the camera, but okay. And this outside line, I'll hit it just a little bit. And then in here, he kind of does these like little. He suggested one like little line that kind of comes up here, which is you don't see it on the other side as much. But what he did is he went. So hopefully you can see these lines. You see how they just kind of go different directions? Again, that will separate that area from what I'm going to do here, which is a more consistent straight line. me see here. So we got dark edge right here. Or actually, I'm going to do this. So this is there's like a circular shape that goes along here that I want to just indicate. Again, different direction than the other lines, so it helps it sort of stand out, even though the value is pretty much the same. And here's like a slight line that kind of comes up here. How much time do we have left? Oh gosh, I'm gonna run out of time on this video. Shoot. Yeah, this thing's gonna end in just a second. Oh. This is the lower edge of this. I'll do this little dark area right here, and then we have to stop this, and I'll start in a bit. This is the bottom edge of the cross. It actually has it come across here. Oh, and then it comes in here dark. I'm trying to make this darker than the edge that it's next to. See, I think my values are going to be kind of off on this, but it's okay. Let me okay, I'm going to stop it here because the camera's going to shut off in like 40 seconds, and I'll be right back. Hey, what's up everyone? Okay, I'm back. I just realized I didn't have both of my desk lamps on. That's kind of crazy. Okay, so let's get back to this. Believe it or not, that wasn't too bad. It didn't take too long. Okay, so I'm going to do this edge right here. And, you know, the only other thing, as I was transferring the photos off of my camera that I kind of thought of, I was sort of like glancing at what I'm doing and then what Bernie did on his pieces. You really want to be mindful of the values when you're putting this stuff in. I mean, again, I'm doing a YouTube video. I'm narrating this thing. I'm just kind of like going for it and laying stuff down. And I'm not as focused on everything as I should be. But like I said, I just want to give you guys the gist of it, and you know, you're just gonna have to play with the techniques to really kind of do it. And he's got some very thin lines in here, just a few that sort of come through to indicate like little cracks in the. And then as he gets up here, he starts to have the density starts to pick up a little bit, and then it starts to get even dark as it goes into this fade. Okay. And then we have this edge. This is a top plane, so it's catching a little more light in this piece. And then as we get to this edge, it's a dark edge. I was very tempted. I was very, very tempted to go and do these, because that's how I would normally do it for a comic book piece. I'm like outlining stuff. Then I go in with the detail. But that's not rendering like Wrightson. Wrightson has it in pencil, and then he goes in and does it with the dark ink. These should all go this way, so he's kind of got pretty consistent like direction for the line, which is sort of facing up. And again, I'm just kind of throwing these in. I mean, if I really wanted to be careful and get the edge like perfectly lined up, I could. I just don't. I don't want the video to be that long. You know, going really, really slow through the process. You just want to be careful and make sure that your lines are all ending on your edge And again, you definitely see spots where he'll go in and kind of just tighten up the edge just a tiny bit. Okay, so this is a white plane. And where we'll really get kind of the reward for this is when we erase it. Then the pencils will be gone, and we'll get sort of a facsimile of a... He has a little tiny bit of a suggestion here. Okay, so just checking my things so that where is it gets a little, because there's lettering that goes over this part in his piece. He didn't really refine this area as much. His lettering is really, really cool on this title page, though. It's really beautiful. Again, these are just little sets of 3 to 5 lines that all kind of go the same direction, but kind of weave in and out of each other. They shouldn't cross over. As I did that little section, I actually kind of overlapped a few, which isn't really what he does, so they all kind of sit next to each other. Okay, a little darker area in here. Okay, so I'll have this in here. But yeah, hopefully this is fun and at least kind of gets you heading in the headspace for this. Okay, so we've got that. And again, his is similar to that. He kind of created a few more sort of like little stylish shapes. I'll show it in a sec. I don't want to switch back and forth because my camera may wig out and then not want to autofocus right. Okay, so this is the underplane of this cross that's in here. This gets pretty dark right here as this goes down. Okay, then we have this. So it goes actually here. These have gone. This is like a little shadow part of the stone. But hopefully at the very least this makes this stuff a little less intimidating to try on your own. Or use maybe little bits and pieces of it for something. I don't know. You tell me. You tell me. I've always kind of drawn this style, so even as a kid, I mean, I've got pieces that I did when I was 12 or 13 years old, and I was really, really psycho with pen and ink. I think because of the Dungeons and Dragons books had probably a lot of different influences, and some very well may have been Wrightson inspired or Frazetta inspired, you know, but as a kid I didn't know. I would see them and relate them to, oh yeah, in the Deities and Demigods book, there's this style of art that looks like that. And I was kind of exposed to that stuff when I was about 5th grade, so 10 or 11 years old. But it made a big impact on me, like just, I think, for literature and for art and just fantasy and the whole thing. So, really fun. Okay, he's just got some, like, more of this, like, lighter line work that kind of cuts through here. So this is a very, very loose rendition of this stuff, like, but okay. We're just getting the gist of it. Okay, then across. Okay, yeah, that's right. Let me. Thanks for all the replies yesterday on the upload for the. I didn't call it a super fun Sunday, but it was one. But yeah, it was really cool reading everyone's replies on my question. So I'm gonna immerse myself in that too. I actually was doing thumbnails for my the online comic book that I'm gonna do this morning for a few minutes. So I got 4 thumbnails done this morning, and it was interesting. But I won't get into that too much right now. Tomorrow I'll do a video on that. Okay, so let me see something here. So this he kind of did lighter. Oh, okay, and then there's like line work here. So oh, and that's dark. Yeah, so he. Sorry, I'm thinking aloud. Like I said, it's a little more suggested here because he's got lettering going over it, so it's not exactly consistent with the other side in terms of the detail and stuff. Okay, and then this is. This is pretty dark, so I'm gonna. And another thing you may want to consider is building up your values kind of as stuff moves along a little bit more, meaning like how I went in and kind of on a first pass just tried to guess how dark an area was going to be. It's a risky way to do it. You can always go in and add a bit more detail and kind of get things to harmonize better that way. But let's see, so this come out a bit more. Okay, so I'm gonna erase this in a second. And then let me just get this whole top plane. I don't think this is that bad though for just like a quick overview of kind of what this is about. I'll watch this back and be like cursing myself for how bad it sucks, but here, give this 1 second to erase or to dry, and I'll erase it, and I'll point out kind of the different values that we're dealing with. Hopefully this is okay. The nice thing about Hunt 102 is it does dry pretty fast, and it stays in the paper pretty good. So, okay, so our values, we have pure white along that edge, and right there, you got white here, white along here. Then we have our light values, which could be a couple more like lines here, but anyway, but so we've got like light going into dark, light, and this is a dark plane. This is a mid value, and these, like I said, you can kind of go in and make them a little more stylish and have them sort of interweave in slightly more attractive ways. But I didn't want it to get too fancy, only because I knew that I was going to do this slightly more fancy. So anyway, very loose. I did them very loose, but you could go in and really kind of make these nice and have everything, 4 or 5 lines that kind of curve certain ways, and you'd be surprised. Kind of anything goes within reason, unless you really start to do something really off-putting. Okay, and then there's a circular thing that goes here. That's kind of a mid-range, and again, this part is covered up with lettering. There's a big N that sits here for the Frankenstein, so it was a little difficult to see what he had going on here, but anyway, so dark, 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 but the darkest is here it's in here. I could actually take that a little darker. Let me just so this is almost black, but not totally. So that edge in there is very, very dark, and then that also carries over into here. So, and then there's two values here. It's a little difficult to see. So this is a dark gray, this inner thing, where you see where there's like a little more white lines. That's like about a 70 to 80% dark color. And then this outer ridge, which would be about the width of that, is almost pure black, and it sits along it. And it's a little more defined on Bernie's, but again, he probably worked through his piece a little bit slower than I did. But anyway, there you go. Render like Wrightson. We knocked one out. That's the gist of how the stuff goes. Okay? Smash the like, please. I hope that was somewhat fun and interesting to look at, and we'll keep working through little studies and just kind of play with it. And again, you know, you're going to want to probably put more care into it and experiment with it is really the bottom line. Okay. All right. Bye.